These are devotions for people at a social distance. I got to say, one of the things that really bothers me in social media and social contact these days is when you encounter people, and it seems to be happening more frequently, who believe all kinds of things that are really not based on much, if any, reality. People who are totally dismissing any, scientific evidence around the use of masks, people who are just buying into these huge conspiracy theories that really have no evidence behind them. And if you're like me, if you contact people at all, you run into this kind of thing all the time. And we're often left with this question, well, what do you do about that? It seems like you can't reason with people and make them see things at all differently. And that is kind of true. Reasoning doesn't get us anywhere. And often people simply withdraw. Um, I thought about all of this as I was reading in the Gospel of Mark this morning. This is all the question of Jesus' authority. As Jesus was walking in the temple, this is Mark 11:27, the chief priests and scribes and elders came to him and said, "By what authority are you doing these things? Who gave you this authority to do them?" Jesus said to them, "I will ask you one question. Answer me, and I will tell you by what authority I do these things. Did the baptism of John come from heaven, or was it of human origin? Answer me." So the question of authority is obviously the question of who do we trust, who do we believe, who do we listen to? And the people come and ask, okay, why should we listen to you? A legitimate question. We should question people who come along and ask, should we listen with authority? But Jesus then turns that question back and says, I'm going to ask you, well, what do you consider about the authority of this other person? Did he come from God or not? It goes on from there. They argue with one another. If we say from heaven, he will say, well, then why did you not believe him? But shall we say of human origin? They were afraid of the crowd, for all regarded John as truly a prophet. So they go into this calculation. Well, if we say this, it's going to cost us in terms of, well, then you should listen to him. If we say that, we're going to get in trouble with the crowd. In other words, when asked the question of authority, they don't actually care whether or not what John said really came from God. All they care about is what happens to them, what people will think of them, or how they will look in this argument. And I think that is really telling. When we get into discussions with people about who to listen to, what is the basis of factual belief that we, something we can count on, people often don't really care about the question of what's true and what's not true. They care about themselves. They care about how they look, how they feel. And I think we need to understand this, especially in our current climate. That means if you run into someone who believes something that is wrong, maybe even dangerous, to actually confront them with facts, to try and convince them to back down intellectually, actually, and we're finding this, doesn't get you anywhere. That doesn't mean you can't do anything. It means you meet people where they are. It means you understand what are the things going on in their life and their world that are making them think this way. It means actually being empathetic, listening to what they might be afraid of, what they might be worried about. There's nothing wrong with that. And in doing that, perhaps we might see some movement, but simply by arguing it out in facts, yeah, chances are we're not going to get anywhere. And I realize that, none of this is probably going to, in the short term, change the divisive debates we see going on right now. But I would simply make the point. A little bit of compassion, a little bit of understanding, a little bit of grace goes a lot farther than confrontation. And I've got to believe that in the long run, that will lead to a better outcome. So I put this thought in your mind. for the encounters you have. Lord my God, thank you that you are true, that you speak with authority. And we sometimes have a trouble with that, with truth, with authority, because we're making all of these other calculations about how I might look or what it might mean to me. For me, Lord, help me to cleave to what is true, wherever that source of truth may be coming from. And for others, help me to understand where people are coming from, not just intellectually, but also emotionally and in their personal lives. Teach us all a little bit of sympathy, empathy, and understanding. Amen.